Right. So, in the previous sessions, we discussed about uh, what Workday and what are the different modules do we have in Workday, right? So, how it functions, right? So, that part we have discussed in the previous session. Now, when it comes to the technical specification itself is concerned, because being into the role of a business analyst, of course, right? So, we are not the one who will be involving in the implementation side, because we being a business analyst, we will be majorly focusing on the configuration part, at the same time integration, because earlier, as I already specified, when it comes to the Workday application itself is concerned, it depends on the organization requirements and all, we have to configure it with how the configuration we have to do, and what are the different configuration steps we wants to perform is what something we have to do as a BA. At the same time, we must be knowing about the integration part, right? So how Workday can be integrated with some other applications, some other external as well as internal applications. This is what something being a BA, it is always important. In regard to that, it's essential nowadays, especially for BA, because we are all application-based BA, right? So because application, technical BA, more or less I can say. So nowadays, it's not only functional experience, but even functional technical knowledge is also becoming inevitable for BA roles, because not only the functional part. For example, if you take Workday as an example, right? So we must have a detailed understanding about human capital management, HCM modules, what are that? Either it can be benefit management, compensations, right? So all these things we must be having an idea. So apart from that, we need to have an idea over the technical part of it, right? What are the different technical specification which is required for us to use Guideware Studio is what something we need to know. So in that regard, normally this technical specification can be categorized into multiple areas, because there are different areas being into business analysis we need to know. So it depends on the requirement to requirement. It slightly vary, but majorly whatever the technical specification I'm going to explain remains constant for any of the Guideware application. So when it comes to the specification itself is concerned for Guideware, so the first one about transports, right? So this is one thing, right? So because what are the transports are required, either it can be of soap, right? So that one of the technical specification you required soap, because soap is a uh, web service which is called simple object access protocol, wherein this is widely used for us to implement the protocols, right? So what are the required protocols you want to implement? So can be used, right? So that is one thing, because even for APIs also SOAP is being used. So SOAP, at the same time even RESTful, even because SOAP and RESTful are the two prominent APIs which are used to communicate between two different applications. Because if you want to develop a communication between two applications, we have to create some API. So for that, generally, SOAP, RESTful, everything will be used, HTTP, right? So FTP, SFTP. At the same time, because even protocol implementation, because transport of data, I mean to say that, right? So communication of transportation of data. So SOAP, RESTful, HTTP, right? So at the same time, FTPs or SFTPs. At the same time, email configuration, because if you want to create any configuration for emails, okay. At the same time, if you want to transport the data now and then, most of the applications we are using is cloud only, right? So either it can be a Google Cloud or Amazon Cloud. All these things are comes under the transport part, means transportation of data. You need to understand from that context. So when you are working on Guideware Studio, it's always important for us to know about the technical specification. That is the first one is about transport and data transport, I can say. Second is data transformation. Okay, this is important. Data transformation is important. One is about the transportation of data as well as the communication between two or among applications. But the next is data transformation. It comes to the data transformation. First of all, we need to know about what are the files, because data file is nothing but the file formats. File formats were many, because prominent file formats now and then we use in application are two. One is XML, second is JSON. Most of the file formats nowadays are XML files or JSON files. So being into technical BA role, especially when we are working on Workday, how to read and understand the XML files and how to modify the XML files is what something you need to know. JSON much easier when you are comparing to Workday, but when you are comparing to, sorry, XML. But XML, JSON file formats, everything is required. So means whatever the data, nothing but the files data, right? Either it can be in a form of images or something, right? So videos or Word documents, right? So this is all something comes under XML files. So maybe it can be of text to Excel text, or text to XML, XML to text, or XML to usually normally Workday, when we are implementing Workday Studio, especially to write the code, normally we use Java code. So XML to Java, or Java to XML, or else if there is any kind of CSV file formats we have, right? So earlier, for example, old system we are using some CSV file formats, so XML to CSV or CSV to XML, or else it can be an XML wherein we wants to transform from XML to JSON, because XML, JSON, both are the file formats. Sometimes we have a file on XML where we want to transform the data to JSON, or else from JSON to XML. At the same time, we need to create any kind of object processes, right? So these are all comes under the data transformation part. So technical specification, XML, JSON, file formats, data transformation of XML, JSON. So in short, I can say when it comes to the technical specification, having a knowledge over XML, JSON, these are all one of the key and important elements. If you are a business analyst, one must be good with, right? So we must be good with. Next, the third were about the productivity tools. Okay? This is also one of the important element, right? So productivity tools is also important, because either it can be Workday Prism Analytics, or it can be Salesforce connectors, or it can be parallel processings, or if you want to customize any kind of Java, or else XML differences, or else developing some schemas for XML and WSDL for web service message builders, right? So all these things are comes under the productivity tools. So these are also some of the tools which normally we are using, especially when we are working on the Guideware Studio. Next one about security. This is important even, because security of the data, security of the applications. So for that, now and then cloud application, we are using Amazon KMS, etc. At the same time, we are using different PHP, PGP models for encryption and decryptions for digital signatures. At the same time, even we are using for security related stuff, X509, right? So we are using, so for AS2 encryptions and digital signatures, right? So this is for generally for security purpose, and maybe for other things, right? So if you have taken other technical, because these are the major technical specifications like transports, data transport, productivity tools, security. So XML, JSON, file formats, Java, right? So these are all something required. At the same time, security, right? So all these things are required. In addition to that, we need to have, we will be performing some database storage designs, etc. Of course, database team do, but being into technical BRO, we must be knowing about the specification in context to that I'm saying, right? So database storage and retrievals. At the same time, validations, right? So data validation. At the same time, what are the different document retention policies or file compressions we want to use? Or else is there any kind of error handling, and what is the error handling mechanism and procedures do we require to follow? Or it can be cloud logins, right? So all these things are part of technical specification when we are working on the Guideware Studio. Being into business analysis, one should have an idea, because I don't say 100% hands-on experience is possible practically by all the people. Depends on the kind of role they are playing as a Workday BA. So there may be having some limitations in context to the technology, but to an extent possible in a larger context, if we are working as a Guideware business analyst and all. It's not only about the functional modules like HCM, etc. But it's also important for us to understand about the technical specification from the context of XML web services. At the same time, JSON learning these will be helpful, right? So because in the beginning of the session, I told you, right? So because functional, techno-functional nowadays. So that knowledge is required in this regard. These are the things which we must be knowing. That's what even in the course of training, usually I'm going to teach you, right? So XML, web services, JSON files, right? So how to read those XML, JSON files. At the same time, web services, right? So this is all something which we need. Some basic of Java. Of course, it's not in detail, but basics of Java, knowing about some data types, all that. Some basic core Java related stuff. This is all something which we are learning in coming days, right? So because technical, because business analyst in Workday is a technical application based behavior. So not only the functional, because there are three categories. One is BA skill set, requirement gathering, UMLs, right? So user stories, that is one thing. Second is functional segment, right? HCM, knowing about human capital management, how the process happens, how the benefit management will be taken place, how the compensation management will works, and how the compensations will be divided, how the compensation will be calculated. This is required, point number 2. Point number 3, technical specification. So this is also required. So these are the 3 major elements for a BA if you are learning, so that you have some command. So you get some confidence when you are attending for an interview and all. You get some confidence, right? So when you attend for an interview, fortunately, if you succeeded in it, to work as a guideware BA, these are all something helpful to you, right? So part of XML and all everything that I'm going to discuss in the next session. Okay. See you then. Bye.